Well, we're about 70 mile out in Bass Strait, and the wind was 35 to 40 knots, and everything was comfortable. We had number 2 Janara on and 3 rolls in the mainsail, and the rigging screw, which is at its part of the top, sort of flew apart, and next minute the mast was over the side and in the water. We got the boys out from below, got the sails all off the mast and tied it up in the boat, and then started the motor when we had everything clear so that we didn't get the propeller fouled up, and took off for Eden. And on the way in we contacted Stella Maris, the radio relay mothership, and told her that we'd lost our mast and we'd retired and everything was under control and we're on our way back to Eden.
And there was nothing you could do about it?
Not a solitary thing.
What position were you in the race at this stage?
Well, at this stage, from the last radio sked we'd heard, we were leading boat on handicap with Jinko second to us.
So unless anything else unforeseen had happened, you probably would have taken the handicap on us.
Well, it would have been hard to beat, but we're only halfway and there was still the second half of the race to go.
And I suppose the crew were very disappointed.
Very disappointed.
What would you estimate the damage to have been?
Well, roughly, I'd say a new mast is going to cost something like about $2,000.
Will it interfere with the boat's racing program at all?
Oh, well, we won't be able to race for probably a month. It'll take that long to get a new mast made up and fitted back in the boat again.
In the news today, an announcement almost out of the blue by the Director of Primary Education, Mr. Swan, that the syllabus in primary schools is, if not to be changed, certainly to be broadened a lot. To be painted with a broad brush was the term he used. So for an explanation, we've sought out our own director in this area, Mr. Ted Gray, to be our guest tonight and offer some sort of an explanation. For instance, what is the parent at home going to see as a result of broad brush curriculum?
Before we do that, Murray, would you mind if we went to the purpose in the first place?
By all means.
The purpose in the first place is to express in a somewhat different way the objectives of education and the objectives of primary education as related to a community. And to bring it closer to the community, it's necessary for us to have a curriculum which relates to that community. If you're going to do that, then you have to have a curriculum and a syllabus in each subject within a curriculum which will allow that subject to be related to the community with freedom for adaptation and freedom also for teacher interpretation. It means essentially and properly, and I think it's been going on in schools for some time now, and despite what you say about a sudden announcement, I think to most people this has been an obvious development taking place, although there has been no statement, recognise before this, but certainly a movement has been going on towards a greater freedom, which teachers are seeking, and which will allow teachers to become a better professional person, related better to a community.
It gives the teacher much more initiative to teach.
Gives the
what
teacher
class
much more
needs
initiative. I don't think that the parent will notice very much at all for some time. I'd say up to 2 years before the teacher will be noticing a great deal. But teachers will be working within a framework which is the broad brush of a statement, as Mr. Swan has indicated. And background to Mr. Swan, there is a functional directorate in our head office, which is designed to update all the time and carry out review all the time of syllabus and curriculum and the broad aspects. And of course, when we begin to consider the broad aspects of curriculum, one begins to wonder whether all the subjects which are at present taught in the primary school are necessarily of advantage and value to the child in the primary school. I know there's a way out person who's a very close friend of mine who says, cut out the rubbish and get onto the 3 R's and get down to the skills. Teach children to read and teach them to write and teach them to do number work and cut out all the other rubbish. And then, of course, there are those who consider the rubbish to have particular values. And those particular values, indeed, I think, are the very growing processes which most parents want for their young people. And this is where the broad brush begins to be effective at the curriculum level.
He also mentioned, Mr. Swan in his statement also said, it's a step towards decentralisation. Now, does this mean that your office up here is going to be allowed to show a lot more initiative, or is the initiative being thrown direct to the headmasters and the teachers concerned?
I'd like to think that we are showing some initiative in the first place.
I said more.
In the first place, thanks, Murray. But certainly, I think we would, yes. The Director General has said that the purposes and the functions of the administration of education, from the ministry through the whole of the head office structure, is designed at the present time to offer the opportunity for the development, for further decentralisation of the functions of education, policy making, ministry, and the research facilities which are necessary for that, and the functional action of the local area. But I think fundamentally what Mr. Swan is referring to there is the relationship of the school to the community, the greater autonomy of the school to match what it is doing or to structure what it is doing, to pattern what it is doing to that community.
Is it a question out of court to ask whether you can see any association between a statement at this time and a change of federal government with a greater eye to education?
No, I think this would have come regardless of any other action. This would have come, has been coming. It's merely at this stage, and Mr. Swan has made it very definite, I recognise, a formalisation of a movement which has been going on for some time.
Does this movement extend, or will it extend into the secondary schools?
I would hope so. I hope that already it has to a large extent. Recently I was with a body of teachers of history in the secondary schools, and they were talking about the broad brush quite freely, and their experiences in teaching within the broad curriculum, within the broad syllabus for modern history, were most interesting to hear from the teachers themselves.
One final question, which is changing the subject just a little bit. $1 million today for the building of a new secondary school. How long is the job going to take?
At almost year. We would hope that in 1974 we'll open that school at Lambton and take that first action which the Minister has already described in his meeting in Newcastle for the reorganisation, repatterning, restructuring of the schools of Newcastle inner city area.
So soon, 1 year away? 1
year away, yeah.
You're in
I feel very confident.
Well, even though the schools are on holiday, you've already begun a very busy year.
Yes.
Our thanks for sparing us your time tonight. Our local Director of Education, Mr. Gray.
It's a pleasure, Murray. Thank you.
The main objections are these, that if by chance that this legislation was introduced, it means that low-cost holidays to thousands of families that otherwise wouldn't enjoy the privilege of being by the seaside at holiday period would be lost forever. Caravans have become a very popular means of holidays to thousands and thousands of families, not only in New South Wales, but right throughout New South Wales, right throughout Australia, right throughout the world.
Well, do you think your protests are going to have any influence?
I certainly think they will. When you consider the number of people involved in the industry, holidaying, that this would amount to many, many thousands of people. And
Well,
I'm sorry.
Can you see any advantages in the government's move?
None whatsoever. It's beyond my comprehension why they would introduce such a move. I'm just lost for an answer.
What do you think is going to happen now?
Well, I think that if we make our protest strong enough, and I think if we do unite in this respect, then the Minister of Lands must certainly have a second thought on this proposed legislation.
Oh, Chris, as long as I can, really. I really love the country, what I've seen so far, and I know I'll be here at least 3 months, but I'd like to stay as long as possible.
And how long have you been wrestling?
A little over 2 years now. I come from a wrestling family. My father was a wrestler, my brother wrestles, my grandfather was a wrestler, and all there's about 14 or 15 guys in my family that have wrestled.
And what did you do before you began wrestling?
I played basketball in the States in high school and college at the University of Miami. And after basketball, I went right into wrestling because that's what I've done most of my life, my father being a wrestler. And it's the thing that I knew best, and it's the thing I like best. So as soon as I finished school, I just started doing what I like.
And having played college sport in the United States, do you think that the rules of amateur sport are a myth?
Oh, I don't know. I think we discussed this, that you have heard about some things in the States about certain players, certain amateur players getting deals like cars and things from colleges, and I'm sure that happens. There's money that goes under the table from a few schools to a few big players. And I know that in Russia, the athletes there in Russia are subsidized by the government, and they don't do anything but play basketball or wrestle or whatever it is that they do. So I think in some situations, in some circumstances, it probably is a myth about amateur athletics. But for the most part in the States, if you're an amateur, you don't make any money, and I think that's what the whole story is. You don't really get paid for doing whatever it is that you do, whatever sport you're in. So in that sense, that you are truly an amateur.
In the blazing sun out here at Belmont, before the final race of the International Fireball Championship, we had a word with a man who probably has more to do with the sport than any other in Australia, Mr. John Castle, the National President of the Australian International Fireball Association and the Vice Commodore of the class internationally. It is a growing class, is it, John?
Very rapidly growing.
What accounts for its sudden popularity?
Well, firstly, it can be built at home by amateur builders, and secondly, the cost is lower than many of the other boats of a comparable size, and thirdly, two men can put it in the water, as you'll see them here shortly. Just pick their boat up, put it in the water with the mast, the boat fully rigged, actually.
Pretty light craft.
It's a very light craft. It's a very fast craft. It's a very exciting craft, particularly since they have the spinnaker now, and which wasn't always the case. When the class first was designed by Milne, it was designed without a spinnaker.
It's an English boat originally.
It's an English design boat, and Norris Brothers were the first licensed builders in England. Now, of course, there are licensed builders throughout the world and in Australia also.
You say it's a comparatively cheap one. What does that make it to build?
Well, about $1,100 on the water. It can be put in the water for $1,100.
It has the reputation of being a young man's boat.
Well, I would say that anyone beyond the age of, say, 50, it's not for him. It's not for him. It is an athlete's boat, particularly since the trapeze work is very, very heavy. And the heavier the breeze, of course, the man can stop out on the trapeze on one whole leg of a race.
How many fireballs in Australia?
And they're approaching the 500 mark now.
And that's...
the biggest individual class in Australia.
Is it
Yes,
big as that?
international. The biggest international.
You have high hopes of getting the fireballs into the Olympic Games, I believe.
We did have, but the French are better lobbyists. They persuaded people that they're not doing any harm in the Pacific with their atom bomb tests, and they also persuaded the IYRU that the French boat was a better boat than the Fireball. We disagreed. But
Which is the French boat?
The 470.
Is there any chance of that being in the Games then?
The 470 will be in the Games.
Well,
The Fireball now will not. And it'll have to come up for another submission in another 4 years,
Well,
maybe.
You're hardly a newcomer to Olympic sport. I notice in the background I have on you a president of the Oceania Amateur Boxing Association and vice president internationally, and therefore...
Yes, but unfortunately I didn't have a vote and I wasn't in charge of the lobbying in connection with the Fireballs.
But what about in the boxing world? You were certainly
Well,
directly concerned with boxing at the past few Olympic Games, including Munich.
Well, ever since I was arena manager in 1956 games, and I've been to every other game since, both not only Olympic, but Asian, Commonwealth, African, and Oceania.
Well, the boxing refereeing came in for a lot of criticism in Munich. Was it, in fact, as nationally biased as the critics would make out?
No, it was not. We always have a lot of problems about amateur boxing because the rules of amateur boxing are so very different to those of professional boxing that they're nearly two different sports. And people who are used to looking at professional boxing and go along to amateur boxing raise merry hell because they think a decision is wrong, where in fact it could well be 100% correct.
But you're not going to tell me that the refereeing was as good as you'd like to have seen it, though?
I wouldn't dare tell you anything, but I wouldn't suggest that I haven't seen better. I have. But a referee in amateur boxing is the top official in the world of amateur sport, in my humble opinion. And I was president of the Refereeing and Judging Commission for the world and had a lot to do with them, and I'm still on that commission.
Well, how come there was more criticism at Munich than there had been at previous games?
Well, because this has been building up. These things build up. And Mexico, there were criticisms there about the refereeing and judging, and I was president of the Refereeing and Judging Commission and responsible, and my commission, for the selection of referees and judges. There was criticism there, which was quite unjustified. So they then brought in a method of doing the referees and judges, which they did at Munich, by lot. So you put all the ping pong balls in a barrel, you whiz them round, and you think you've picked out, the ping pong machine can pick out the best referee. Well, it just can't, it's obvious.
Leave it at that. We'll return to the yachts. On the international scene, where does Australia stand in fireball sailing?
We're coming up very rapidly. We expect to have at least one, maybe two, go to the world's titles this year.
The winner today is sort of in the running for a world
He's not
title
in the
track.
running, he's home and hosed. He can pack his clothes because he will certainly get to the world title in England in 73 this year.
It's as strong as that.
It's as strong as that. And Brian Innes and Mick Rogers came third in the world title in America last year. And then, of course, in March 74, we have the world's titles at Glenelg in Adelaide.
Oh, here in Australia?
Here in Australia.
Well, perhaps we'll be interviewing again on that occasion. In the meantime, thanks for your time this morning, and the best of luck with your International Fireball Championship.
Will you see that you give us a good breeze this afternoon?
We've been speaking with Mr. John Castle.